Salve, família!
Você que quer fazer intercâmbio e curtir o estilo de vida australiano, lembre de se inscrever no nosso canal e acompanhar o Australian Lifestyle Podcast.
Falar o quê, meu amigo? Vai lá!
Bom dia, amigos do Australian Lifestyle! Estamos de volta e dessa vez com uma conexão internacional, Vinícius Barreto. Nós aqui na Austrália, vocês provavelmente no Brasil ou pelo mundo afora, e nosso convidado lá em Bogotá. É isso mesmo, Vini?
Hoje a gente está mais internacional do que nunca. Você na Gold Coast, eu aqui em Perth, o Melo, diretor, em São Paulo, o Rafa na Gold Coast também, que é da nossa parte técnica, e o Carlos está em Bogotá, representando, entretanto, a University of Queensland, uma das melhores universidades da Austrália, que são uma das melhores do mundo, né? E a gente vai falar um pouquinho aqui de cursos de pós-graduação, de graduação, nessa instituição de primeira linha. Welcome, Carlos.
Hi, Vinicius. It's a pleasure to be with you and with all the Australian Center team here tonight or today. I don't know English.
Whatever time.
I know the
Whatever
daytime.
time
Yeah,
you
exactly.
That's all right. Carlos, let me know, how did you come into this industry? Because we're here in Australia, we're talking about education, and you're back in Bogota. How did you come to this job?
So actually, I was lucky enough to live in Australia as well. So I lived in Australia back in 2005. I initially went there for 7 months to study English. And then I ended up working for the same institution where I was studying. I decided to stay for 3 years in Australia. And my boss at that time, he actually offered me a job to stay there in Australia, but I wanted to come, to return to my origins. So I came back to Colombia. And after a couple of months of being here, I got in contact with him back again to represent the institution from overseas. And that was 14 years ago. And since then, I've been working for Australian institutions.
All right. All right. So this institution that you're talking about was not originally UQ.
Exactly. No, it was not the original UQ. I started working for a language institution located in Sydney. And then I work for another university that is in Perth, which is an amazing university too. And then I decided that I wanted to work for one of the best universities in the world. And I was offered this position and I had it. So I am really happy now working for UQ.
We want to know a little bit more about UQ and also some tips, on how to pursue a higher education degree in Australia. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that, and maybe we start with, describing UQ a little bit more for those that are watching us today.
So the first thing that I would recommend for the students to know is, of course, the rankings in a sort of way. The rankings is a good measure just to see how well positioned is the university in the world. Of course, it's not everything. I believe that any university that it's already ranked in the top 100, it's a very good university, okay? But I would say that the main difference between studying in UQ and studying in any other institution in Australia or in the world is that the quality of our academics, the campus that we have, it's a beautiful, wonderful campus. Have you ever been to that campus, Benny?
Yes, I have. I have done a couple of training sections at UQ, and it's stunning. Absolutely. I can easily say that it's one of the most beautiful campus I've been, and I've been to a lot of different, university campuses.
Yes. So I don't know if the students are aware of it or not, but there is a lake within the campus. You can actually come by boat. So there is a wharf in the campus. So it's an amazing experience. And of course, we have all the sport facilities and the teaching quality is just amazing because we are the Australian institution who has won more teaching awards than any other Australian university.
All right. Well, that's a really good privilege, right?
It is.
And UQ, it's part of a group of eight, which, I can trace a parallel with Ivy League in the United States.
Yes. So all these group of 8 universities are research intensive universities. We are the only one located in the state of Queensland, and that really makes a difference. The group of 8 universities are, of course, the most prestigious universities in Australia. So our name is like well recognized worldwide. So students who graduate from us, they will pretty much have the doors open to work anywhere in the world. But actually, we have seen that most of our students, they decide to create their own businesses. So entrepreneurship and innovation is a key part of UQ.
Wow, that sounds
Uh,
amazing. That's really good. No, but how come this university, University of Queensland, is ranked among the best in the world? And what is the actual ranking, and how do we measure that?
Okay, that's a very good point. So there are some important rankings. So the most important ones, I believe, it's the academic ranking of world universities, also known as the ranking of Shanghai. The QS ranking, it's quite popular here in Latin America. So in the QS ranking, we are ranked of 42 in the world. In the academic ranking of world universities, also known as Shanghai, it's 62 in the world. In Times Higher, we are 77, and the US News Best Global Universities ranking, that it's pretty much from a company in the US, we are 41 in the world. So all these rankings measure different things, and that's a very good point, the one you're touching there, because sometimes the students they actually sometimes check rankings like Webometrics or something like that they doesn't really have academic index. So these other rankings, they pay more attention to key factors, for example, like internationalization or academic recognition or publication, or how well known are the academics that are publishing. So I would say that the most important one is probably the academic ranking one, the Shanghai ranking. In that one, we rank 62, but we are the number 2 in Australia. Okay. So, and there are many, like, it's not only that main ranking, the one that it's important. I recommend for all the students who are like listening to this podcast to go into the subjects by ranking areas. That I would say that's the most important ranking, because you will be comparing the best universities in the area that you want to study. And the students will see that UQ ranks among the best, like the best one or top number 1 in many different areas in Australia.
And we want to know a little bit more, Carlos, about, how can we make this dream come true? How can prospective students actually be accepted and go to UQ?
I remember when I was young that, like you start seeing the movies and you always want to go to the top universities, and the top universities that you're always seeing are Harvard, Oxford, or Cambridge, So some of them are part of the Russell Group in the UK, some of them are part of the Ivy League in the US. But probably the film industry is not as big in Australia, so that's the reason why you don't hear as much about the good quality of the Australian institutions. So when you actually start comparing those institutions, when you start comparing universities like Harvard or Princeton or these ones in the Russell Group, you will see that like very prestigious academics come from all these universities ranked in the top 50. And it's a way cheaper for the students and a way easier for the students to be admitted in a group of 8 and in the University of Queensland if you compare it to a university in the US. We have analyzed the data, and you will be able to see that a semester with us, it's probably twice or three times more expensive doing it in US in one of these top institutions. So in terms of cost, it's a way more beneficial for the students. There is also one important factor for the students, that it's the return on investment. And students who are going to an Ivy school in the US, it takes almost 10 years to get the return on your investment. In cases like us, like when students come to UQ, it usually takes 3 to 4 years to get the return on your investment. So that makes a very big difference. That would be only in terms of cost. But the other important thing is, of course, the admissions. When the students are applying to these universities in the US, it's called like a holistic admissions approach. Like they check if you have done volunteering job, if you have to do an interview, you have to do an essay, submit references from your academics. So many different factors play an important role in your admissions. With us is just focusing your academic results. So as long as you meet the minimum academic results for each one of the different programs that we have, you will be able to be admitted in our university.
So having the minimum results and academic results is already a pathway to be accepted, right?
Yes. So the minimum results to be admitted into our university. So if you want to have a direct admission, so if you want to start right after you finish your high school, you probably need to graduate from an Ivy school, so an international school. But if that's not your case, so we have plenty of options for those students too. So students could either submit the SAT, which is an exam that usually it's done it can be done in Brazil, but it usually gives you the pathway to be admitted into American universities, okay? But we use it too. The other option is students could do the foundation program with us. And the foundation is a very good program because it helps the students with the transition, like coming from a school and going to a university, especially in Australia that has a very different model. It really helps them with that. Students who go through the UQ College or through the foundation program at UQ College, they usually complete their full studies, so they don't quit after 1 year. That it's something that it's common, like with students that are doing university. And the other important thing is that if the students already have a good English level, they could submit the syllabus. So the syllabus is the description of their courses during the last year, and as long as they have studied all the topics that we require, they should be able to be admitted into our program too.
So you've got a streamlined admission process. Brisbane is obviously in a subtropical area, so people that go and study at the Q2 have no problem in adapting to the weather, and to the climate in Brisbane. It's like very similar to what we have in São Paulo.
Yes, I would say.
It is more cost effective comparing to universities in Europe and the US, a little bit cheaper. Not only that, Carlos, but students can work part-time while they study, and they have upon graduation, if they are under 36 years old, the possibility of applying for 2 or 3 years, depending on the program they're doing, for a working visa right after finishing the course, so they can obtain that international work experience after finishing the degree. So there's a lot of different factors that people do not realize. There is a very strong bias to North American universities, especially in Brazil. But it's such a great opportunity that the UQ presents to the high caliber students coming from Brazil and other countries in Latin America. Do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. And especially when students are considering to study abroad, they usually do it because they want to have a better career, you know, and Australia actually gives them um, that option, but they also give them a better personal experience, you know, like you live in Australia and you know how different it is to live in Australia if you compare it to the US. Like the quality of living in Australia, it's way better, not only because the culture there, but also the wages, the income, it's really good for the students. Like students, for example, who graduate from agriculture with us, um, we have seen that for each student who graduate in the area, there are 6 job opportunities waiting for them. So there are plenty of options for the students, not only in agriculture, that was just an example, but in many different areas. And because they can stay there once they graduate, that's pretty much where they get all that return on their investment. This applies for students who are planning to do their first degrees or their bachelor's degree, or for students who want to do their master's degree or their PhD. So yes, there are plenty of options for students who want to come and study with us.
And this is really good news, Carlos, because we coming from Brazil, many students have some financial difficulties, and to have that option to be able to work while they study and after they study, it's an amazing offer. And I wanted to ask you most precisely about these people that are already studying in a degree in Brazil, and they might want to do a master's or a PhD there. Um, how does that work? Do you have any institutional partnerships with Brazilian universities uh, or scholarships offer? How does that work?
So in terms of admissions, so if the students are planning to come and study with us, of course, my recommendation is to get in contact with you. I believe that's pretty much the best option because you will be able to guide them, you know, like through the visa process, with the admissions process, with the accommodation. Like in my case, even though that I am located here in Latin America, I pretty much help the students like with all their questions about the academics or the best programs for them to choose. But definitely the best option, like to get the guidance through the whole process, I would say is through Australian Center. Now, in terms of scholarships, we have for 2026 one particular scholarship. The name of it is the High Achievers Scholarship. This scholarship can be granted for students who receive an unconditional offer letter for UQ, either for the bachelor's degree or for a master's degree program. Okay, it's a 20% scholarship, and it will apply for the whole duration. So if the program you're choosing, it's a 3-year bachelor's, once you get the scholarship, you know that you will have 20% off during the 3 years of your program. If you are planning to go into a master's program, we have different options. So students could actually do a master's in 1 year, in 1.5 years, or in 2 years. If they decide to go for a 2-year master's, this program allows them to stay longer in Australia. Of course, it will be a bit more expensive, but at the end, the return on investment is probably better for those students. And once they get the same, like once they get the scholarship, it will be applied for the 2 years of their program. Okay, that I believe it's the most comprehensive or the best scholarship that we have at the moment. As I said, it's 20% off, and it's only for students who have an unconditional offer letter. What is an unconditional offer letter? It means that you don't have to submit any additional documents to be admitted into the university. So this will apply for students who already meet the language requirements and the academic requirements, which is pretty much our conditions to be admitted into UQ. In terms of agreements or partnerships that we have in Brazil, We have one with Mackenzie University. With them, we work with the Faculty of Chemical Engineering or Chemistry. We actually have a partnership with our our biotechnology program, okay, which is ranked among the best in the world. So in that area, we're ranked top 15 in the world, okay. Then we also have an study abroad agreement with INSPER, and we also are working in an agreement with FGV, Fundación Getulio Vargas, I think it's the name of it. Yeah. So we are working in those fields with them.
Those are really good information for people who want to pursue a degree here in Australia, Carlos. But I wonder, how is life in Australia? What should they expect if they want to move here and study in UQ, for example?
So there is no bad city to live in Australia. All the cities are amazing. As I said, I live in Sydney, which is a beautiful and amazing city. Then I work for a university that is in Perth, also a wonderful city. I love that city. When I live in Sydney, actually, I had the chance to travel to Melbourne, to Adelaide, to Brisbane. So that was the first time when I came to Brisbane. I went to the north of Queensland, so I went to Cairns to visit the Great Barrier Reef, and all the cities are amazing. So, and of course, I have to talk about UQ and Brisbane and what makes the difference in comparison to the other cities. So I believe this is a city that it's located in the subtropical region. So it will be very similar, I would say, to Sao Paulo in terms of the weather. The cost of living is really good, so it's cheaper than living in cities like Sydney or Melbourne, and that makes a difference if you're a student. And now the transportation in Brisbane, it's 50 cents. So it costs 50 cents even to go from Brisbane to Gold Coast. So if you want to go every single week to the Gold Coast, it will only cost 50 cents. So that's a very important thing too. But in terms of the culture or the how different the city is in comparison to others, I believe this is a city where you will find the benefits, of course, of a big city, because Brisbane is actually going to be hosting the Olympic Games in 2032. So it's attracting a lot of investment, so job opportunities are there too. But it's a city that it's very well located if you want to be connected with the nature. So beautiful islands like Moreton Island, it's not far from us. Gold Coast is not far from us. If you want to go to the rainforest, it's not far from us. So it's a very well location if you want to have this mix of nature and a city.
Exactly, and there are a few other advantages for students who do their undergraduate elsewhere. For example, here in Australia, right? And mainly, I would say, all right, it might be a little bit more expensive than the cost of universities in Brazil, but considering that you can work part-time, you can even pay for your university here, and after graduating, if you have a little bit more time to make more money, then you would even profit financially from this maneuver. Wouldn't you say that, Carlos?
I believe that in our case, if students are going to Australia with their part-time job, they will probably have the option to cover their living expenses. But studying in Queensland, it's a bit more expensive. So my recommendation for the students is to have all the funding from the original country. So if you have the support from your parents, that would be the ideal. But then you need to be able to negotiate, because as we have been mentioning during the whole session, this is an investment. So the students will be able to get to recover most of that investment once they are able to work full-time. And especially like if you compare the job market, if you have a degree from one of these top universities, if you graduate in the area of biotechnology or science or business, and if you compare it to someone who is only having a casual job, of course, the income it's much better for those students who did their degree with us.
Well, we have talked about studying at one of the top universities in the world. Carlos has given a lot of tips. It is accomplishable, no? If you do the right planning, if you come and talk to Australian Center, we can help you with planning, applying for a university like that. And during your studies, you're going to be living in an amazing lifestyle. And we want to hear from you, Carlos. What is the Australian lifestyle for you?
So the culture, like in Australia, it's very easy to feel like you are part of the community. That's a very important thing. So I think it's better to feel closer to the culture than closer in terms of the distance. At the end, it's only a longer flight. And of course, like the Australian way of living, beaches are really nice. Restaurants are amazing. You get to eat food from many different countries in the world. Friends are from everywhere. So you are taking classes with students from many places in the world. And that's something that it cannot be compared to many other destinations.
I totally agree with that, Vinny.
Yeah, so if you put that in a nutshell, we're talking about like global networking, welcoming people, great weather, fantastic lifestyle. And that's what we are here for, like to share this information with all of you that are watching us.
That's it. What else would you want? I love it too.
I love it too. I actually going next week to Australia.
Great.
Brisbane.
Brisbane, yeah. To visit
All right,
you again. Yeah.
Let's get in touch. I live close by. I live in the Gold Coast.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiago.
All right. Well, thanks very much for this interview, Carlos. Very enlightening. Easy for students to understand why they should come. And then I would just like to thank you. Thanks, Vinny, again for the insights. And I'll see you in the next episode. See you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tiago. Thanks, Benny.
Thanks, Carlos.
Bye.
Salve, família!
Você que quer fazer intercâmbio e curtir o estilo de vida australiano, lembre de se inscrever no nosso canal e acompanhar o Australian Lifestyle Podcast.
Falar o quê, meu amigo? Vai lá!